Welcome, everybody. It is me. It is the Cyber Warrior. This is Cyber Warrior Studios, and I know you are all here for another amazing episode of what? Security Happy Hour. That's right. We got a big show planned. My guest is currently MIA. I'm trying to get a hold of her, but in the interim, I always got things on. I got plans upon plans upon plans. Is what happens. We always have backup plans. So I do have two other people on here that we will be talking to, and if you want to jump in the conversation, feel free to drop comments. And let us know you want to come on. We'll bring you on. I ain't got no qualms with that. So otherwise, I love you all, and hang out for about 10 seconds. We'll be right back. And we're back. And like I said, I always got plans. I always got friends. I always got people I can count on. So yes, my guest at this time is MIA. So of course, Devin, who is the backstage hand and helps me keep track of messages and is also working in cybersecurity and has been on the show before. He's here. And, of course, I got to have InfoSec Pat because Pat is amazing and always comes through in the clutch. So thank you both for jumping in and being part of the show. How you doing this evening, gentlemen?
Good.
Living the dream, man.
So we are going to keep with the topic at hand, which is burnout and imposter syndrome. And I got to say, I had a conversation about it yesterday with some people at a Pittsburgh cybersecurity conference. And it's very intriguing, the different thought processes and how people look at things. So in your eyes, and we'll start with you, Devin, because you are probably the newest of all of us to the industry. What's your thoughts on burnout like, and have you felt burnout? Like, have you been done or, anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it goes along with any industry that you're in. I've only been, in cybersecurity for about a year, but in the industry, it's demanding. You definitely get asked a lot. There's always something going on. It's real. Whether you think you're going to get there or not, you hear about it when you first start and you're like, oh, it can't be that bad. It's exciting. It's new. You think it's going to be great. And then, you get into it and you really experience it, and it happens quick. You get, like I said, it's demanding. You get asked a lot. There's constantly always something going on. You're getting hit with things from 6, 7, 8 different directions. If you're not careful, before you know it, you're just exhausted. So make sure you use your PTO. I'm horrible about that. Take your vacation. Take your time off. Respect your family time.
You're supposed to take that?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's real. And in my last job, I was kind of the same way. I'm really, really bad about just doing whatever it takes, being a yes man, I guess I should say, more than anything. And sometimes you got to learn how to say no.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to touch on a little bit more of that. But Pat, what about you, man? I know you've been doing a lot. You've got your own channel, your own show, plus your work, working full time, conferences, all that. What's your take on burnout and everything, man?
Yeah, no, totally, dude. And again, thank you for having me. It's always fun and exciting and shooting the shit. But mental health, I think, is super important, and just to have it all under control, because, like Devin was saying, right? Like having that time, disconnecting from work, from YouTube, from anything, just to spend time with like family, significant others, kiddos. Now I have a kitten, and just to disconnect and get out of this room and just spend time with them. And it's like important, because I feel like when I wasn't, it was only making trouble and heartache for the folks that were important, right? Because I was like, oh fuck, I need to check my phone. I need to check on and that's why I ended up doing the one-on-one coaching and mentoring program. It wasn't just because I wanted to make money out of it. I was like, okay, like if I have something that's pricing towards an actual program, it'll be like, okay, it's justifiable, right? I'm like, okay, babe, I am doing this. Okay, Val, like I'm doing this. Oh, okay, so-and-so, like I'm doing this and I'm getting compensated for this hour that I'm disconnecting from you folks, right? So that's the reason why I made that. And I think just like, I don't really get exhausted really easy. To be honest, I don't know. So like, yeah, I think it was more just like getting in trouble more than like, oh fuck, like I think like studying that really burns me out. Like right now I'm studying for like the PMPT. I don't know if it's ADD or, just before this show, right? The last hour I was doing external, pen test playbook and doing some external pen testing for some stuff. And it's like, oh man, like, I have to sit here for an hour and study. I don't know if it's me because I'm like, oh fuck, I already know this, Heath. Thanks for showing me all this, but I already know what's next. What don't I know? And I don't know if it's that. I'm not, and I'm just watching obviously to make sure I cover my ass and cover the gaps just in case I don't know something for the exam. But yeah, that's how, and obviously burnout. I work out a lot. I go to the gym.
Wow.
that definitely helps with the mental stress and stuff like that. But yeah.
I mean, so and here's the thing, right? So when we look at our careers, and the reason I say I'm gonna touch on everything is because we also got to touch on the schooling factor, right? The educational factor, just everything, even before you even get into the career field. But in the career itself, when you're burning the candle at both ends, you are going to burn out. Wax only lasts so long. Batteries only last so long. So it's going to happen unless you recognize it and can refill what you're missing. And when you're in the military, you will find a lot of people actually, and I would say some of the best NCOs and officers I came across got burnout. And it's because you drive on so long, and when you're on leave, you're still taking phone calls. When you're off duty, you're not off duty. You're still taking calls. You're still working. You're still doing things. And I know our industry is not siloed in such a way that we're the only ones that feel burnout. It happens across almost every industry. If you're a workhorse, you're going to burn yourself out. Because, to your point, Pat, you lose track of family. You lose sight of the bigger picture, which is that you need to separate yourself from work, from school, and actually spend time with what truly matters in this life. People lose track of that. They start working, and especially, your workaholics, they're like, oh, I got to bring home money. I got to bring home money. I got to bring home money. If you're paid a salary, whether you work 8 hours or 30 hours, you're going to make the same. It doesn't change. It's not. So why, if a project is due on a Friday and it is now Monday, why are you trying to get that project done at 10 o'clock at night instead of being with your significant other, with your kids, with just disconnecting from the world? Those are things that I used to do, and now it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't. When we look at the education, we're constantly learning. Where's your you time? Are you a gamer? Like, what are your other hobbies? Do something else, or else you're gonna burn out, and that's all industries.
No, facts.
For sure. I've definitely been caught doing that.
Misha says burnout from where you're out. Damn it, Misha. Your typos are messing with me. Trying to force yourself to work towards something else can cause you to give up before you get anywhere. When you're burnout, especially when you're burnout from where you're at. There it is. So it is, because I think people misunderstand the symptoms of burnout. It's not just you don't want to do your job. It's not just you don't like your career field anymore for some people. It's literally you hit a state of depression that you don't want to do anything. You're legitimately that exhausted and burnt out from life. And I think people forget about that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point.
Well, I think a lot of people, like you're talking about, like that people that have that grind culture. I think Griffin might have said something about that. People.
We were taught grind culture. Trying to break that is difficult.
Yeah.
So true.
So like those people that have that grind culture, like, hey, this is what I have to do to get to the top or to the next level or whatever it may be. They just have that mentality. I know I'm kind of like that. Like I want to come in there, I want to do my best. I want to show you that I'll go above and beyond to get the task done so I can, move up the ladder. And I think having that mentality and then continuing on with it, yeah, it does get you places, but it also can make you not want to do the job, make you not enjoy your career. And there's got to be a happy medium. Yes, you need to be a good worker and do your job, but also you have to have that family life and be a good family person. Like your family it has to be more important than your job. But yet there has to be that level where you balance those two because your job provides for your family and all that stuff. So getting that balancing. Again, I think it's a trial and error type thing. You have to find, okay, where's this meet? Because we do have the after hours, the incident response, but it needs to be those things where we're only going above and beyond when there is a critical incident, like incident response, where you have to do it, and it should be limited to a certain amount. You have to limit yourself, and the organization should help in that fact.
And look at it this way, right? So unless you're an analyst in a SOC that is 24/7, you're an MSSP, or even if you're a SOC for a company, you're always told you're on call and there's a rotation and things like that. So yeah, at certain times you're expected to work after hours, right? Yep. But all this stuff is contractual. That's what you get hired for. So your pay is usually, commensurate with that. And that, hey, we'll give you, comp time, right? Maybe they don't have unlimited PTO. So we're going to give you, hey, take a 3-day weekend. You're not going to be on call, or
right.
That you get paid more or you get a bonus, whatever. The problem comes down to where, to your point, right? We think that if I just do more and work longer hours and do the most, then I'm going to get promoted. No, what that tells a company these days is I can bust your ass and make you do whatever I want, and I don't got to pay you more.
Yep.
Why am I going to pay you more if you're going to do the work for the rate you're doing? Yep. And so it doesn't necessarily lead to a promotion. It leads to you literally wanting to quit your job and leave the career field because you're going to think that's how it's going to be everywhere, when that's not the case.
Yeah.
You get with good leadership, and leadership is going to tell you, take your PTO, disconnect, and if I see you sign on to work, I'm going to smack you.
Yeah.
Like, if you're on PTO, you're on PTO. If I hire you for a 9-to-5 job, and let's just say a sale, and it could be an MSSP, an MSP, whatever, but it's 9 to 5. And the salesperson sells something, and we have a deliverable due, and it's due the next day, but it's not done yet, and you're not going to get it done that day. 2 options. You can get it done, and if it doesn't take a whole lot of time after the fact, then cool. But if it's going to take more time, that means we sold the wrong amount of hours. We did something wrong. I'm going to delay that delivery date. Like, as a leader, I'm going to say this cannot be turned in on this date because it's just not going to happen. We don't have the time to do it. We need more time. So, a good leader is going to jump on that, and they're going to take the heat for it. You know how many freaking strays I've taken and swords I've fallen on? Like, you're going to take the heat for it. But your people, your engineers, your analysts, your, whatever, should not have to take the heat for that. Not from a client or higher up. You and them can have a one-on-one later. Why didn't this get done? What, was it we didn't put enough hours into the project? Was it PTO? What caused this? And that's why one of my comments and one of the things I always tell my people is I will approve almost all PTO. I really don't care. However, if there is work that is due while you're on PTO, it better be turned in before you go on PTO.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple. Because I don't want to have to call you wondering where something's at. Yep. So the work that is due the week you're on PTO, that does need done before you leave. Or there needs to be a conversation with the client that says, hey, I'm going on PTO this week. Will it be okay? And you got to give them advance notice. Like, It can't be the day before. Hey, I'm going on PTO, start tomorrow. Like that. No. Like, these are things that need to be discussed in advance and say, hey, I'll be on PTO this week. Can this start the week after or be, turned in the week after, or does it need to be done beforehand? Like, what are your deadlines? What are you looking at? And that's all stuff that needs discussed. But that prevents burnout because now you're not worried about it on PTO. You're not trying to do things when you're supposed to be off. And things like that, like, again, grind culture. I'm sorry. Working while you're on PTO just means you're working for free.
Yeah.
Yep. Actually, you're working for more than free. You're working for more than free. You're paying to work because you're using up your PTO.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So Griffin asks, how do you keep up with the ever-changing field without burning out? My cynical ass is going to give you an answer you don't want, but I'm going to let Devin and Pat take it first.
Go ahead, Pat.
How do you keep up with the ever-changing field without being burned? Like I said prior, like so far, knock on wood, I have more of the next topic, imposter syndrome than burnout. But
we'll get there, right? We got an hour show, Pat. An hour show, damn it.
Yeah. I guess disconnecting, I think, having and learning things in chunks, in nuggets, right? I think that is key for me, right? Like I said, like right now I'm doing the PMPT, right? I'm just learning what I need to do on the areas that I am a little weak with. And it's like, okay, I need to study up this. And then like, I do it in increments. And that's how I probably prevent myself from like, oh, fuck, I don't want to do this anymore. You know what? Screw it. So that's what's keeping me sane and going. But that's just me.
Devin, what about you?
I think the biggest thing is understanding that you're never going to keep up with everything. And being able to understand the fundamentals and the basics to where you have a good grasp of, the networking side of thing, kind of the web app, just an understanding of everything and how it works. And then figuring out to pick that field that you want to specialize in. Something like, say, you want to do cloud, you focus on cloud, and then you have to look at that even further, more intricacy. Okay, do you want to do AWS? Do you want to do Azure? Do you want to do Google? Whatever it may be, and focus on that. That way you can bring it into a realistic scope for you to look at. Because if you try to go over cybersecurity as a holistic view, you're never going to understand it all, and it's going to cause you to burn out. You have to you have to have a basic understanding of it as a whole, and then specialize into something. That way you can realistically keep up. Because if you try to keep up with everything, it's not going to happen. You're going to get imposter syndrome. You're going to get burnout. You're never going to get to where you want to be unless, maybe a handful of people can, but in all reality, 99% of the people cannot keep up with everything in cyber and say that they know it all.
Yeah. So first off, OIHEC hackers, I hope you're doing good in Mexico. You're like the only one that's commented on Twitter so far since I started putting it there. So good to have you here. Otherwise,
Mexico.
I look at it this way. You have two options in tech and cybersecurity. You can specialize and become extremely good in one part of it, or you become a jack of all trades that goes a mile wide and an inch deep and eventually ends up in management. And I say that because when you get to a certain point, whether it's manager, director, team lead, whatever, principal, practice, put whatever terminology you want on it, you're supposed to be less hands-on keyboard, more be able to speak to the technology, speak to the tech stack, but not necessarily be the one to do the work. Because at that point, you need to worry about your people. You need to worry about how the business is doing. You need to worry about how the clients, if they're happy and what's going on with them, if you have clients, if not, are the other BUs within your organization happy? Are things, meshing properly? And are you as a leader doing the right thing? If you stay technical, there is nothing wrong with that. It's just specialized, because I've lived that life of trying to know everything about everything. And you always fall short.
Yep.
Always. You could be a damn good pen tester, but please pick an area. And look, I know people are going to come at me and they're going to be like, oh, no, I can. All right, cool. But I guarantee you I can find someone better than you in at least one of those areas.
Yep.
Guaranteed, because you refuse to specialize. So there's nothing wrong with the broad range and understanding that you're always going to have to learn when you shift jobs or shift areas, that you're going to have to learn a new technology. That's how I got a lot of my jobs. Mile wide, inch deep, I can learn anything. So I would learn the different softwares that I was involved with. But with it being constantly changing, you're not going to be able to keep up with it on the fly. Like, look at Microsoft. Microsoft went from Active Directory to Azure Active Directory to now it's called Entra ID. Like, and their whole scope of things that they do keeps changing. If you try to keep up with every single aspect of Azure and know the ins and outs of everything it does, I'm sorry, you're going to fail. And you're going to miss something, and a company's going to get breached because you told them, oh, yeah, I know it all. No, you don't. You don't.
Nope. That's what I deal with on a daily basis, and they still don't. They still only have it half switched over. Like their interconnect, if you look at their module that actually runs on the server to connect back to it, it's still called AD Connect. So they have half of it changed over, half of it's not changed over. They're in the middle of it. I mean, they're constantly updating other things. As much as they change, there's I don't care what anybody says. It's absolutely, like you said, impossible to keep up with everything.
It is. It's ridiculous. Let's see. So another one from Misha, and then we got Space Tacos. How do you handle when you haven't? Well, all right.
That's my fault.
Misha, we're almost a half hour in. I'll let it slide. All right. We didn't hit imposter syndrome yet. I'll let it slide because I love you. How do you handle when you have imposter syndrome, trying to get into new things, and all right, she threw burnout in here, and burnout from where you're trying to get away from? Fuck me. You got to be difficult, don't you? You're lucky I love you. And I can't wait for you to move near where me and the rest of our family is. So let's let Devin go first since Pat went first last time.
Fair enough. Way to throw me under the bus.
Damn straight.
I think it goes all back to what exactly we've been talking about here. You know, understanding, like when you talk about learning cybersecurity, have a good understanding, overview, holistic view, or like if you're talking about, if you want to go a mile wide and an inch deep to go into the management field, understand and realize that you're not going to know everything. You're not going to be the best at anything, but you're going to have a basic understanding of everything, and just ingrain that into yourself and understand that your goal is to ultimately oversee everybody that's doing that, and that's why you hire specialized people.
Learn to hire smart people. You want people smarter than you.
Exactly. Understand that you're there to point those people in the right direction, make sure they are getting everything they need and the support that they need, not to be able to go out and do the tasks. Now, if it's something that you want to specialize in, make sure you refine that specialty, and then still understand that specialty is going to change. And next week, it may be completely different than it was the week before, and you're going to have to learn a little bit and make sure it's something that you love. I think that's key. Like, play around with a lot of different things before you jump into something. That way you get something that you're like, okay, this is what I really want to do. If you get into it and it's not something that you really want to do, it's completely okay to pivot as well. You can pivot into anything. That's the great thing about cybersecurity. There's 27 other different directions you can go than the one you're in today. And then earn out from where you're trying to get away from. So I think that's the key thing. Continue to look and grow, but grow into an area that you feel comfortable with. And again, don't feel like it's an issue if you want to pivot 6 months after you get into it. That's the great thing about cybersecurity. There's 100 other ways you can go.
Yeah, definitely. Pat.
Oh snap. So how I'm trying to handle some of the imposter syndrome that I'm dealing with at the moment, it's not only that I don't feel like I don't know it. It just feels like sometimes I want to be that perfectionist and know it all in what I'm trying to learn, right? And that was always my problem. That was always in my earlier career, mid-career, and even now sometimes it's like I want to try to know it all. And obviously that's no bueno, because it's never gonna work out. It's never gonna be like that. And yeah, that's pretty much what, how I would deal with that. What was the next part of the question? Burnout?
So they're going from one career field into cybersecurity. They're burnout with their current field, but suffering imposter syndrome within cybersecurity as they're trying to transition. So they haven't even gotten in yet, and they already feeling imposter syndrome.
Yeah, and I So I think another thing is don't ever compare yourself to others, because that'll really fuck you, right? And it's the same thing like with anything, right? Like if I'm going to compare, it's not only in cybersecurity, it's just like stay in your own lane, because you're always going to be your own worst critic, and just stay in your own speed, and just, your finish line. Because, for an example, myself, I can be like, oh, Derek and I, we make videos, we have a little show, we do this, but our channels aren't as big as XYZ's channels. So, oh shit, are we going to ever get like XYZ's channels? And it's like,
and I'm still trying to get on your level, let alone XYZ. I need to get on Pat's level, and then I can worry about the next big one.
You have to start doing some tech videos. That's how I think if I was strictly doing just like the Thirsty Thursdays and live streams and stuff, I don't think I would have been to the level or to the growth I've made over the last few years.
Woohoo! Pat, you earned me $10. I'll send you $2 later.
Yeah, and the other part was burnout. Yeah, I already covered the burnout aspect. I don't really get burnt out too much. Mine's just more about the learning and just comparing myself to others in certain areas, especially when you're studying with a group of folks. And it's like, oh man, like this person's understanding pivoting. Fuck, what is that? You know what I mean? Like, how are they getting from this, or Privesk, or like when they're running this, if they're compromising.
Privesk is the worst when you know it's supposed to work and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I know this is the way, but it doesn't work. And you have to do it 50 times before it's finally like, oh yeah, hey, help me. I'm going to work.
Exactly. Especially like I think that happens a lot more of the Linux boxes when you're trying to.
A lot of it is RAM based or memory based.
Yeah, memory.
That's the right piece of RAM at the right time to actually work.
Exactly. So yeah, that's pretty much my answer for that.
So I'm gonna attack this on a different same way but different. One, imposter syndrome. And Misha, you've listened and watched my other podcast, and you know this outright. You've been watching this show for a long while. Everybody's path is the road, right? I can guide you. I can give you a little assistance, but ultimately that path is yours to walk. It is your choice on how you walk it. It is your choice on the tools you bring with you along that walk. And so with that, no one else is walking with you. So how can you compare yourself to somebody that's not walking the same journey? You can't compare your journey in life, your journey in your career field to anybody else's. You can't compare where you're at to anybody else. It's a Pat's point. I've done that with my own YouTube channel. I've done that with other things throughout my career, being like, and like I just said and joking with Pat, I need to get on your level. Down to business with V, who's in the YouTube chat. I was just telling her yesterday, I need to get on your level and be able to do what you're doing.
Yep.
Chris Cochran from Hacker Valley Media. I've told him the same thing. Some of it I say in jest, but ultimately that is kind of where I want to be, right? I want to get there. But I can't compare myself to them. And so with that, you can't compare your day one to somebody's day 1,000.
And that's our problem.
So Pat's been doing this for
4 years.
Much longer. Mom is in the chat. Love you, Mom.
I was getting ready to say, I seen
Don't
family
get mad
pop
at the
up
things
in there.
I say.
I seen family pop up in there.
But your journey is going to be different. Your day one, if you were to compare my red teaming skills to Pat's going to blow me out of the water. And if I held on to that, then I'd feel like I don't belong.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. And I compare myself. Like right now, I'm doing some stuff with malware analysis and embedding malware into Word documents and calling back to C2. And I'm like, fuck, if I'm like John Hammond, right? I'm like, oh man, this kid can run circles around me. And I've took bits and pieces of his videos and ingrate some of the techniques and stuff like that, because I learned a lot from John. Right. And it's like, and this kid, sometimes I've said it to him and I've said it, on other streams. It's like, this fucking kid's speaking Chinese. I actually understand Mandarin, but like he's speaking whatever, fucking some language I don't know,
Right.
But it's just like, man, how is this kid just able to, and just to what Devin was saying about knowing everything. Sometimes I would look at kids like him. I say he's a kid because he's like 12 years younger than me. It's like a guy like that, a young man like that is like, how the fuck does this kid know as much as he knows? Right.
Dude, it's astounding how much some people really know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The brain holds a lot though. People don't realize that. But if you think of it this way. So Pat, you don't have any kids, if I'm correct in that, right?
I have a daughter.
You have that's right. You do have a daughter.
Yeah.
So like when you're looking at things, when you have a family, you now have to remember birth dates.
Mm-hmm.
You have to remember anniversaries if you're dating someone or get married or whatever. You've got to remember, all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Phone numbers. We grew up remembering phone numbers. I still remember a ton of phone numbers.
Me too.
I remember the phone number I grew up with.
Mine too. 718-805-9255. That's my house.
I didn't say the area code. You know where I grew up, you can figure it out. But so there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of things that we have memorized based on tribal knowledge. And so then we can't retain the rest. So you pick and choose what you're going to hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, and it's cybersecurity, and it's literally as much as humanly possible. But if you ask them, oh, well, what type of car do you drive? Or what's your license plate number? Or what's your license number? They couldn't tell you.
Yep. I don't know my license plate.
You know what I mean? Like, I know my license number off by heart. I don't know the expiration date, but I know the number of my license. So, like, anytime a website's like, hey, we need your license number. Here it is.
Oh, fuck.
I know mine. Like, I know mine by heart, too. I don't know why.
Dude, at a young age, I knew numbers really well.
Yeah.
Phone numbers, social security number.
Yeah.
I learned my license number when I got it. Whole Cyber earns a super chat for the Find Your Tribe comment, and I'll add, your tribe will help you keep a path, but you must find your own end. Oh, Misha, I love it. You're right, you do find your own end. But yeah, so you remember, so you can't compare yourself to anybody else. And I'll take it one step further. So we've had people on this show that are autistic, and ADHD and OCD and everything else. I consider all those superpowers because when you do find that trigger of something you enjoy and love, you will remember everything about it. However, if you don't enjoy something, you will remember nothing about it.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah, that's very true.
So it's just one of those things, man. Like, we all got to pick and choose. And I have found that I prefer motivating and leading others versus trying to learn every single technical aspect there is out there and every single tool. I used to love it. Now I find I prefer to do things like this and talk to others and help others.
Mm-hmm.
I still know security. I can still do the job. I still do the job. Doesn't mean I enjoy the technical aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Necessary evil.
Yeah, and that's something that we spoke about, the other night on our call. It's like the fact that you can admit to that, like out loud, saying, "Okay, I'm doing it. I know it, but do I enjoy it? Absolutely not. This is what I do enjoy. And understanding that what you enjoy and doing what you enjoy and waking up to something that you look forward to do. I think that's super, super important. and whatever you do, you know what I mean? That's why I'm not doubting, like, I'm not saying this in a bad way, but like teachers, right? At least down here in South Florida, teachers probably make 50,000 US, right? 45 to 50,000 US.
Day.
Yeah. So it's like
34 here.
Yeah. So it's like, you really have to love these kids, you know, in order to do that. So it's like they waking up and they're going to go to school and they feel like whatever, making that difference, learning or whatever is what sparks their, tickles their pickle in the morning.
On that note, though, I think not only is the salary a problem, when we think about teachers, it is the fact that they got to buy all their own supplies now.
Yep.
They and people are always like, oh, well, you get 3-4 months off a year, like you don't have to work.
No, that's not true. My daughter's mom
realize that if you have a teacher, and especially in this day and age, is trying to rent an apartment, let's just say, right? Yeah. They're not married, they don't have kids, they just enjoy teaching others. They can barely afford that apartment. Look at the cost of rent in half of these states. The salary of a teacher cannot afford rent in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Unless you're, on
it's got to be a supplemental income. You have to have somebody else there to support you.
Yeah. And it's like, so that 3 months off half the time isn't off either. They're planning for the next year. They're trying to figure out what lessons they're going to teach. They're buying school supplies. They're doing all this other stuff. I know, because my sister's a teacher. Like, I see what she goes through. And yeah, do I have a problem with bad teachers? Yeah, I've seen them. I know they exist. But as a whole, the things they go through, it's you just can't. I'm sorry, it doesn't. They go through worse than anybody in the cybersecurity industry in IT. So if you're in my career field, our career field, and you're complaining about, oh, teachers get 3 months off a year or 2 months off a year, and go make their salary, and then deal with what they got to deal with from parents, from staff, from superintendents, from trying to improve curriculums, and then talk to me.
Yeah.
And most teachers, I know the teachers like around here in the small town I'm in, like I said, 34,000 is what the average teacher makes here. 34 to like 38 if you're, tenure, which is ridiculous. They usually work at like the pool. They do something in the summer to supplement that income, so they're not off.
Yeah.
The only ones that do that get to enjoy that is if they have a supplemental income. They have somebody else there that makes double that, if not triple that amount of money, so they could actually survive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And to be fair, and Space Taco says it, you can choose to be paid an annual salary, not just during the school year. So it lowers your
weekly income or whatever. Yeah. Right.
But it's extended out over 12 months. But I still say it's not enough. I think level one cybersecurity people in a lot of companies don't get paid enough. I like juniors. I think junior IT people don't get paid enough. I think teachers definitely don't get paid enough.
Just a heads up, you got a membership renewal here. I'm gonna throw up on the screen. So 10 whole months.
Woo! Because Griffin's awesome. Griffin's always coming through in the clutch. Him, and actually Misha is a member also.
Yep, I see that. Yeah, he's got a whole 10 months. Look at that. Almost a year. Getting there.
But yeah, so I look at things differently.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Have you had anyone actually test your I'm gonna smack the shit out of you roll, and how many? Not yet. Someone came close. They were like, but I'm going, no, you're not. Walk away. But no, I do. I look at this, and we have to look at our industry. We can't silo ourselves, right? Because you got to think about it. Whether it's imposter syndrome or burnout, we have to understand people. Because if you look at it from a blue team perspective, how do hackers get in? How's all this stuff happen? A lot of it comes from piss poor training of your analysts. Users eventually just don't care. And it's because why care about somebody that's not taking care of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get rogue IT when security becomes the organization of no.
Yeah.
Everything they say is no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. So you have to enable business. And when we're not doing that, we're burning out our analysts. We're
Mm-hmm.
burning out our users. We're eventually going to get burned out because you're not going to get paid more, and all you're going to do is take shrapnel and stray rounds from everybody above you, and other organizations. So we have to get better about that. But again, it comes down to understanding your limits and really reflecting on what your actual job is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
I agree.
So how do you think someone should react or approach a situation where you're not getting compensated for what you're worth and you love the place that you're at, you really enjoy it, but I know if I leave this place and I go to XYZ company, I can make 90 grand or 100 grand, or just say double or whatever. Doesn't really matter about the amount, but it's like you just don't feel like you're getting what you're worth, and then like they're working you to death, like we were talking about before. How would you like approach that to like maybe your manager or whomever you report into, in order to get the amount that you feel like you are deserving? And if they don't give it to you, how would you go about leaving?
So you have two options in that situation,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can look for another job,
Mm-hmm.
find another job,
Mm-hmm.
put in your 2 weeks, and a good leader is going to say, why are you leaving? And then a better leader may or may not offer you more money. If the reason you're leaving is solely based on compensation, then a lot of times you might be able to get someone to stick around that way. It's a piss poor way to get more money, because if another company is going to offer you more money out the gate, they're going to give you a raise, and you're going to eventually grow. It may be better to leave, regardless of what your current company is going to offer you. Just stay.
Mm-hmm.
The other option is to legitimately go and you do your research. So you go out to something like ZipRecruiter.com, salaries.com,
Mm-hmm.
there's a few others out there, and you compare
Glassdoor,
what you're
Backdoor.
doing,
Mm-hmm.
what the median or the top and bottom salary levels are for your state. And even some of them you can even get down to the city. And the reason I say that is this: if you do it on a broad scope, let's just say globally, United States, whatever, California will pay someone at, I don't know, level 1, probably $150,000 to $200,000 a year. Why? Because the cost of living is so flipping high there that that is legitimately the junior salary. Now, again, I could be off of my numbers. I probably am. I'm exaggerating, but let's just say. But then you go to somewhere like, I don't know,
Oklahoma,
the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, and you end up where the low end of their salary, because of their cost of living, is about 40 grand a year or 50 grand a year. And the high end for the same role is about 70, 75. You are not going to go to your company, look at a national average, and be like, I want 160 grand a year. Why? Because that's national average for this position. Your boss may only be making 160 grand a year. He is not going to pay you. She is not going to pay you the same amount she's getting paid or he's getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's based on where you live. And I had the same conversation with somebody at Google years ago. I told them I wanted to work, but I wanted to work remotely. And they said, oh, we're finally doing that. I said, cool, you're going to pay me California salary. They said no, which I knew they were going to do.
I was getting ready
But
to
for the
ask
position,
that same question about how that works remotely when the company's based in California, but you're not.
that's where it gets tricky. They try to base their salaries off of, and this is where salary transparency comes into play. A company should show a salary range that they're going to pay somebody no matter where they live.
Agreed.
That salary range, if you show me a salary range with a range of $100,000, I'm going to tell you I want the highest amount that is there. Now, you're probably going to undercut me and give me something different, but my initial offer is going to be the most you can pay me based on that pay band. Whether or not I deserve it, that's a moot point. That's going to be what I tell you I want. And then when you give me a different offer, we'll see. If I feel it undercuts me like way too much, then no. But that's where salary transparency comes into play. Because if they're in California, they're still going to have pay bands, meaning they're still going to sit there and say, okay, this level gets this salary range. Where you live should not alter that pay band. That pay band should be the same across the board.
Right. That's based on their profitability, right?
Correct.
That's based on their profitability. And that's why, like, to touch on the whole fact of where you're at, like, I almost don't even want to look at or apply for jobs if they don't have a salary range listed. Like, it's almost like, because I hate putting in a job application that has no salary range with what's your desired salary.
Oh my goodness.
$1 million
when I was looking for work, that was the worst.
Yeah, like what is your desired salary?
What do you want to make?
$1 million a year. If you don't put your salary out there, I mean,
$1.5 million every year.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, you're crazy. You asked what my desired salary.
Right.
I'm freaking Batman, homie. Dress the way you want, dress for the role you want. I'm writing the salary for the role I want.
Right.
I want to be making $1.5 million a year.
Exactly.
But whereas if a company puts a pay band there, then you can say, okay, so this role pays this much. One, is it even worth it for you to leave your current position, right? Because you don't necessarily want to take a pay cut if you're leaving the company you're with.
No,
unless you know it's going to put you in a better position in the future.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
But two, it's one of those things where if it's the same salary you're making, is the grass always greener on the other side?
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing.
Like, so let's just say some people go from the MSSP space to consulting to, or they go and work for just a company, right?
Yeah.
Let's say they work for Google. Now they're not in the MSSP space, so they only have that one company to worry about. But is it going to challenge them enough? Is it going to be worth it for them to, constantly study and do the things they need to do? Maybe, but then they get siloed, right? When you look at these organizations, you end up in a silo.
Yeah.
And a lot of times being in silos, that'll burn you out. Because now you're not getting the opportunity to be like, you know what? I want to try this tech stack or this technology.
Right.
I'm like, stay in your lane. You're only doing it.
No. We're not
How are
changing.
you going to grow in your career field? Because if you go to a company that only ever uses, let's say, Tenable Nessus, for instance, for vuln management, and you want to do vuln management, well, a company says, hey, I need a VM person, senior VM, but we use, I don't know, Rapid7 VM or Qualys or QRadar, right? And you're going to be like, well, I have no experience with that tool.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that, though, like it comes down to, you could say you have no experience with that tool, but in the end, when you go to a company, it's kind of like firewalls. Like me and Pat had this conversation the other day when we were talking about it. Like, the interface is different. Every little thing about it's different, but in the end, they do the same thing, right?
Right.
So as long as you understand,
right? Because I'm able to articulate that.
Yeah, so, as long as you understand the operational point, the operational standpoint, how they traverse data, how they connect to certain aspects of it, you're going to be okay. The main thing is being able to learn what they do it and their nomenclature.
Speak on the topic.
Exactly. Yep.
That's and I want to give. Problem I think we lack in this industry is you have a lot of introverted people that don't like talking to people, and so when they go to an interview. They are not confident about what they say and how they come across. If you are not confident, especially in a consulting or MSP space, no one is going to listen to you.
Yeah,
Sure.
I wanna piggyback off that too, because this happened. I think I don't think I had the CCIE yet. I don't remember. No, because I got it just before Val's. So like, it was where the hell did he go? He just
He went
jumped
to
off.
go pee. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. I'm calling him out.
So I just want to put that out there for folks, because I remember, I think I had my CCNP security, and I was working for a bank at this point using ASA firewalls. So I was really good with firepower and just FTD and ASAs and all that stuff. But after the bank got bought out, so I went back into the looking for a job, and this was probably 13 years ago. And I was looking for jobs, and I was like applying, but a lot of people, that's when everyone was starting to go to like Checkpoint, next gen firewalls, and then like
Right.
and Palo Altos with Panorama. And I never touched any of that shit back then, you know? So I remember I talked to two recruiters, and one was from Robert Half Technology and the other one was from Tech Systems. I still remember. And both of them like, oh, we can't submit you to the client because you don't have Palo Alto. And I remember telling them, what kind of car do you drive? I drive a Mazda. If I gave
drive
you
a car with four wheels.
Exactly.
And real quick, before you finish the story, Devin, quit announcing that shit. I think it was you or Pat that did it last week too, or the week before.
No, it wasn't me.
Right,
It's probably me again.
Yeah. Stop announcing it. We all know, dude, you got admin controls. You can see I walked away. You know it.
So, yeah,
I'm just keeping it real around here, buddy. Just keeping it real.
Holding down the fort. Yep.
That's
so
right.
So I just want to say that So I talked to someone from Tech Systems and Robert Half, and he's like, oh, I can't submit your resume because you don't have Palo Alto or Checkpoint, firewall experience. And I think I did back then, now you don't need to have a written, you can just go take your CCIE. But back then you have CCIE written and then you do your lab. Mm-hmm. I think I did the written at this point. And I was just like, hey, if you understand, I hate to brag and toot my horn. I'm like, just look at the acronyms behind my name and you should understand that I know what a firewall does, right? And I was just so aggravated. And obviously being still young, I was in my 20s. I did go get my CCSA, which is, Checkpoint Certified Security Administrator. And then I did for Sonic Cert. Then I did my PCNSE for Palo Alto. And I got these certifications just because I needed to prove something. And that's when I set up EVNG and setting up all that stuff. So I guess my feedback to it for folks that are like, okay, like in the cyberspace, oh, like what Derek was saying, oh, I know Tainable Nessus, but I never touch, OpenVAS or Rapid7 or Qualys. The fucking thing does the same thing. You're scanning, you're reporting, you're remediating, you talk to the server team, you talk to this team, you remediate, and then rinse and repeat, right?
Yeah.
And now the beauty of everything, say, for example, you're working in a shop that's Rapid7 or Nexpose or whatever. Now you can say, okay, you can use Qualys in the cloud. You can use, Tainable for 20 nodes for free with the community edition. OpenVAult, like you can start like opening up broaden your horizon with a lot of these tools, just because a lot of things are cloud-based now, right? And you can just scan like a sandbox environment or like your home stuff or whatever you want to scan. And that's what I do. I run Nessus in my home on all my devices once every other week, and I do my own vulnerability scanning and just to make sure. And I have a honeypot out there that
I don't want to, because I have IoT in my house, and I know it'll sit there and tell me that it is vulnerable to the world for everything.
Yeah.
It's like, nah, I'd rather not know. Just let it happen. Yeah. Right? Surprise me.
Wait till the FBI calls, right?
Yeah.
When all of a sudden my freaking security onion starts going, hey, homie, you got some call outs to some things you probably shouldn't have.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's coming from your Google Home. Yeah, I've seen that one coming.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you jump on TikTok.
Right? FBI has entered the chat.
I know we need one of
No,
those little
Down to Business
icons
with
with
B.
the
FYI,
We
she
need one-
has her own show. It's called Down to Business with B. If you're not, it's on TV. Go look her up. Amazing. I talked to her yesterday. Great conversation. Knows her shit for sure. So, and a Marine veteran at that. So,
very nice.
she will scare you because she could probably kill you in one shot. That's the point. But no, like, so here's the thing. When you're looking at these companies, and again, you could talk imposter syndrome, burnout, whatever. You can learn any tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I care more about, and unfortunately, when you're dealing with an MSP or an MSSP, you have to hire people that know certain tools, right? Depending on the level, mid and senior level. Like if you don't know the tool I'm hiring for, sorry.
Yeah.
Like I wish I could, but normally it's because it's client facing, and I need you to be able to hit the ground, talk to the client, and just go. Now junior level, that's a different story. But at a company, I get mad for two reasons when a company says you have to know a certain tool.
Mm-hmm.
One, because now you're telling me what you use.
Yeah.
As an attacker, if you sit there and put on your job description, you need to know Palo Alto, Cortex, XDR, and XOR, and all this other stuff. Cool. I know what I need to bypass if I want to break in.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then the flip side to that is I've gotten a lot of jobs based on the ability to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I had more letters after my name than the damn alphabet for a while. And B, because when it came to tools, look, if I could speak to the fundamentals of what that tool is doing, I can learn that tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I've migrated from McAfee ESM to Logarithm to Sentinel to, I've worked with Insight VM, like all these different tools.
Mm-hmm.
And look at the offensive security space.
Mm-hmm.
The open source space is constantly changing.
Absolutely.
It's going to continue to grow.
But what people don't realize is those old tools still work.
Yeah.
Reaver is still a solid tool.
Oh, I actually made a video on it the other
Aircrack is still a solid tool. And what people don't realize, and so there was a whole thread on LinkedIn about Aircrack.
Mm-hmm.
This one lady wrote in her book about the Aircrack NG suite.
Yeah.
And some dude decided to chime in like, oh, if you're using Aircrack, you're out of touch. You do realize I can use that suite and still probably break into about 90% of the networks out there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, so no, it's not out of date. It's not a bad tool to use. So I think with everything, we just got to understand the tools may change, but the concepts, what they do, and their purpose doesn't.
Yeah.
To me, a SIM is a SIM is a SIM.
Yep.
If I don't care if you're running Logarithm, Sentinel, Splunk, whatever, they all achieve the same purpose. How they do it is the only thing that changes.
Exactamente.
For sure. Same, and like I was talking about earlier, it's the same way with all tools. You're using a different way to get to the same end. That's all it is. Some people just think work better, and some do. Don't get me wrong. Some do work better. Some have holes in them, to say the least. But in the end, a firewall is a firewall. A switch is a switch. A vulnerability scanner is a vulnerability
model,
scanner.
homie. Layer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yep.
We can go TCP IP model.
Yep.
4 layers, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 5.
4.
5.
No.
Is it 4? 4.
4.
Yeah. 4. Yep.
Yeah.
It's 4.
So, I mean, again, all these achieve the same purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one has its pros and cons.
Yeah, for sure.
Splunk is way too much money to make me do a bunch of queries.
But it's got AI now.
That makes me do a bunch of queries. Like, it does nothing. I've got to install Kibana on top of it just to get something usable out of it without doing the manual work.
Sure.
Sentinel, same way. Sentinel's a ton of queries. They're like, oh, we got workbooks. Cool.
Yeah, workbooks, KQL. I got so many cheat sheets for that shit.
Dude, you need them. KQL is a bear.
Yeah.
Like, despise KQL.
But again, like, even if you're talking about Sentinel uses KQL. If you're talking about Falcon's using KQL queries. I mean, whatever tool you're using, still using KQL. You're using the same thing.
I like, for my analysts, right, as an engineer and as a manager, I want analysts to be able to go to a web UI and just see what's there.
Sure. No, I agree. I'm just saying that everything works essentially the same.
SIM engineering.
Yeah.
Logarithm, their web UI, it took me a while to get used to, but then once I understood what they were doing, I was like, oh, really? Wait, so I can look for every log, but ultimately it's just showing me events.
Right.
Yeah, these are your brute forces. These are your whatever, right? Your login events. Ah, okay. And then once you understand that, and it does its baselines, now you got analysts that can go in there and drill down into what they want to see.
Sure.
Here, with a lot of anything that does querying, so Sentinel, Splunk, things like that, you have to go searching for what you want to see. And your workbooks, there's no drill down. If I open up a workbook, I can't right click on a freaking table and be like, oh yeah, I want to see this. No, I'm going to give you a query. And that's if you're lucky.
Yeah.
But I think that's where you build those queries and you save, okay, this is when I'm looking for something along these lines, like, okay, someone got in, I need to look and see, did they get anything from SharePoint, whatever the like, thing may be.
GitHub is your friend when it comes to Sentinel.
Yeah.
And Splunk. Because that's where you're going to get all of your queries and all your information is GitHub.
Yeah, that's where I have one saved for a lot of my Microsoft Sentinel stuff.
But hey, we're over the hour. And I want final thoughts on how newcomers can defeat burnout or prevent burnout rather, and defeat imposter syndrome. And I know we've talked about it a lot, but that's the topic of the day. So I want final thoughts on it, and we'll go with Pat, you're the closest to me, so we'll go with you first.
Oh man. So I think at the end of the day, you just want to take it one step at a time. Don't over fucking burn out yourself, right? Don't overdo it. Just take it one day at a time, second to second, and just make sure what you're learning. Like I said before, and this is what I do. I take things in nuggets and just make sure those increments are digestible or learnable. I don't know if learnable is a word, but digestible, and just understand those and make sure. And this is one other thing that I do. I haven't done it in a while. When I did a lot of my Cisco training, because I got this from Keith Barker, is teach someone else the topic. And even when I did like OffSec stuff, like obviously in the community with OSCP people, or if like, for example, PJPT, I could talk to a PJPT person and say, like after we pass the exam, oh, what did you learn? Okay, this is what I did, X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. I think that's definitely, something to help prevent that. And as far as imposter syndrome, don't compare yourself to others. That's what I would say, because that'll really, screw up your shit, your mind and your confidence and everything.
Definitely. Devin, on you.
Oh, I piggyback off what Pat said. Learn at your own pace. Don't try to push yourself too hard. Don't think that you have to just jump into it and learn everything right now, because it's gonna cause burnout. It's gonna cause imposter syndrome. You're new. You're just getting into the field. There is a shitload to learn, and it's gonna take a while. It's gonna take years, as a matter of fact. I've only been in the field for a year. Derek, Pat, they've been in it forever. They teach me stuff all the damn time, and I'll be continuing to learn. You're always going to have somebody that's above you. You're going to have people that started after you that just learn faster as well. It's going to happen. Don't focus on that. Focus on yourself. Do what you can do. Make sure you're comfortable while you're doing it. And again, if you get a job, make sure you still take time to spend with your family, to spend with yourself, to enjoy life. That's the thing. You got to enjoy life. If you can't enjoy life while you're working and learning, you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hit on two things on burnout. One, Pat said, and it was something I was doing for a while. And the other, Griffin InfoSec just said, your mental health equates to your physical health as well. Going to the gym, going for walks, get out there and touch some damn grass. Literally, take your shoes off, take your socks off, and
grounded.
Touch grass.
Get grounded, yeah.
If you ground yourself, it'll stop you from burning out because nature is an amazing thing. When I say the trees talk, the trees literally talk. Okay, they will talk to each other, and they will talk to you. The ground will talk to you. You may not realize it, but by grounding yourself and really getting back in touch with nature and things like that, it'll prevent a lot of the issues that we're having mentally, physically, things along those lines. And when you're working out and taking care of your physical health, right, not eating junk food all the time or what have you, then you do a lot better physically, which then helps you mentally because now you feel better about yourself and the way you look and how you carry yourself. And mentally, it's a stress reliever. It gives dopamine and all the other chemicals that they talk about. I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying. Serotonin. I don't know. I don't know what they are. One of those onin, or dopamine. I don't know. One of those means.
PCP.
But you get that in your system, and it makes you happy, and it makes you, it gives you a better feeling. And touching grass, I'm sorry, it's legitimately one of the best things you can do in your life. Because technology has overrun us in such a way that we have hid behind computer screens, cell phones, TVs, video games, everything else. And I think that has been more of a detriment. Hey, the trees talk. Don't get it twisted, Jason. When you see a tree fall near you because you were talking shit, it's going to be your fault. Nature always talks. You just got to listen. But everything has become a detriment to us. Social media is a detriment to us and our mental health.
For sure.
So we need to get out. We need to touch grass. We need to ground ourselves and get back in touch with who we were when we were, first on this earth. That'll prevent a lot of burnout. As far as imposter syndrome, I can't stress enough. Pat said it. Devin said it. Other people have said it. I've said it. Do not compare your day one to somebody else's day 1,000. The moment you compare yourself to somebody else, you've already lost the fight.
Yep.
For sure.
I talked about it when I had my old office back in my old house, when I had certifications behind me. I was like, I got to make sure that I know, and I got to remind myself. No, now I just quit. I go compare myself to others. Now I know I belong.
Yep. And
no one's going to tell me otherwise. And I tell that to everybody in this industry. It doesn't matter what you look like or who you are. If you want to be here, you belong here.
Yep.
All you got to do is be willing to work and put in the effort.
And the funny thing that you say that, and yes, Jay, the social media is killing us. But exactly, I have a few up, just a few. But my old house, I've taken over 100 exams in my career, and I had literally. Oh no!
I want to emphasize on the fact of what Pat says because I've been to Pat's house and hung out with him in person, and you walk through his house and you'll find a stack of certifications just kind of laying around his house, and I'm like, they're like trading cards. It's got to collect them all. Over Pokemon trainer with cybersecurity and networking certifications. It's insane.
Look, I've got the best belt at all. The best stuff. I am the champ. That's all I need. And I only pull this out because Griffin InfoSec said it doesn't matter what your name is, The Rock.
So what you were saying, I think it's super important. That's why I stopped that, because I had the same exact thing. I'm like, you know what? Who the fuck am I proving? It's putting all these things behind my, and I had so many. It looked stupid. It looked like a fucking, a wallpaper, right? And I'm like, okay, now it's okay, it's the InfoSec Pat, and it's okay, I'll have some InfoSec And then people know about, my OffSec. I'm not a big fan of OffSec. That's why I took my OSCP down off my wall. But that's besides the point.
Me and OffSec don't talk no more.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it, but I'll keep that to myself. But yeah, I think be proud of what you are and who you are and your path, and just if you have one cert or if you have a million, just do it for yourself.
None.
Exactly. If you have none, yeah, that's fun facts. And that's pretty much it. Because we can go on,
Yeah, we can go on forever. Pat, we did it the other night. I could talk for hours, but at the end of the day, this is Security Happy Hour. I love every single one of you. You're all my warriors and you're all my family. Make sure you share, like, comment, subscribe, all those fun things. If you haven't done it yet, come back after the episode. Please leave your comments so that this show can get out there and more people can see it. Do not forget, check out InfoSec Pat live every Thursday for Thirsty Thursdays. And we have a new warrior of the family. So Down to Business with V. Check her out. Look her up. She is on TV. She has her own show, does her own thing. So make sure you're checking her out as well. Otherwise, take care. Enjoy the weekend. And I will talk to you all next week with another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour.